أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم Bismillahir Rahmaanir Raheem. Mr. Madadi Sahib al-Saif Sultan al-Yaman. Tariqat Sohbet al min Jamiyat. This tariqat, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم Bismillahir Rahmaanir Raheem. This tariqat is based on association, Sohbet. If you are listening to Sohbet, and if you put it in your life, what the Sohbet is saying, you'll find that time very easy for you. Dunya and Akhirat. You're not going to be sucked into the tricks and the traps of the dunya. And in the way of spirituality too, you're not going to be tricked in the way of spirituality. Of course, so many they are tricked in the way of spirituality. So many in the way of spirituality, they are thinking that they are something. So many in the way of spirituality, they think that they achieve to high stations. What Shaykh Maulana is saying, the Shaykh Effendi is telling us over and over again. We are trying to be what? Something. No. We're trying to be nothing. As long as we see that we are something, our ego is going to trick us. So tariqat and being in Jamaat and listening to Sohbet should build up in us, you and me, how to get rid of the tricks and the traps of our ego, how to understand the ego and shaitan, how they are ambushing us, how they're coming to trick us, and how awake we must be. Now we come to the point of being awake, not sleeping, day and night sleeping, zikr sleeping, sohbet sleeping, going through life completely sleeping. What happens to the man when he is sleeping? If in the spiritual way he is just sleeping, meaning he is not looking at himself and not understanding himself and not understanding his ego, because his tariqat is concentrating on the ego. No? We are not concentrating on the spirit. Let the spirit take care of itself. We are concentrating on removing the veils in front of us that separates us from Allah. What Allah is and how that vision is none of our business. We're not going to concentrate what is the vision behind the veils. We concentrate on what these veils are and how to remove them. For that, to remove the veils, the believer must be in awakening station. He must know that there are veils. Not to say, no, there are no veils. I already reached to Allah. Allah speaks to me. Allah comes to my dreams. Subhanallah. If we are to believe everyone speaking like that, this world is full of modern day prophets. Even the prophets, they don't speak to Allah directly. Ulul Azam prophets, they don't speak to Allah directly. You cannot be higher than Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam, he spoke to Allah directly. Although he was given the title of Kalimullah, the one who conversed, the one who talked to Allah, still he was speaking to a burning tree, and sound was coming from there. He did not speak directly to Allah. When it is said that Holy Prophet ﷺ spoke to Allah, didn't Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salam always was the messenger between him and Allah? Did you ever hear the Prophet speaking directly to Allah? No. Except for the Mi'raj. And for that, Prophet has to go to Mi'raj. He had to travel 700 times, 70 times years, light years. Those numbers signifying that it is a very hard, very long journey that he has to reach. First pulling himself out from the dunya. Pulling himself out from the dunya, not to be tricked by the dunya. Then rising above the heavenly stations, not to be tricked by the heavenly stations too. Up to Sidrat al-Muntaha. And then moving on to divine presence alone. For hundreds and thousands of years by himself. To be able to be in divine presence to speak to Allah. But mashallah, now Muslims, they're saying, Allah speak to me and I speak to Allah. Of course Allah is speaking to us. Because Allah is closer to us than our jugular vein. But if you are still listening to your ego, you're still listening to dunya, you're still listening to hawa, your desires, and you're still listening to your nafs, impossible that time for you to listen to Allah. Because there's so much interference then that time. You think it is Allah, but it is shaitan. You think it is angels, but it is your ego. You think it is the awliya Allah, but it's actually those other ones. Before shooting for that, before aiming for that, before looking for what lies behind the veils, concentrate on the veils. This is what our Shaykh has taught us. Say to me if I'm saying something else other than Shaykh Effendi is saying. We are concentrating on the ego. We are concentrating on the tricks and the traps of the ego, on these veils, to see what these veils are. How our ego is tricking us today. How our ego tricked us. How we must now use the sohbet. The sohbet is like an ammunition against the ego and against the shaitan. How are we going to use the sohbet to be able to pull down this veil? How are we going to use a sohbet not to be tricked into ghaflat? Because the ghaflat, it is worse now. It is a worse situation. Because with ghaflat, with heedlessness, you cannot be a believer. Because be careful from the vision of a believer, because he sees with the nur of Allah. Isn't that what Holy Prophet ﷺ said? How is our Shaykh teaching us this? Is he concentrating on the nur of Allah? Is he concentrating on what lies behind the veils, talking about maqamats and the nur of Allah, and talking about lights here and lights there? Or is he concentrating on what blocks us? Concentrating on what makes us to be in ghaflat and how to remove that. Yes, he concentrates on that. He concentrates on making us to realize from the small to the big things, things that makes us to be in heedlessness, in heedless station. How, if you're not aware of your surroundings, and you don't care for your surroundings, how are you going to be able now to be aware of the spiritual surroundings? Everything has to have a proof. If you're saying you're aware of the spiritual surroundings, you must be aware of your physical surroundings too. We have different tests and different questions for those ones too. This is not claiming. At that time, when you've received that training, you'll be able to not only to pull people, because these days everyone pulls people, no? Shaitanic people also, they pull people. But how you are concentrating on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in your life, and how you are inspiring people to live the lifestyle of the sunnah of the Rasulullah ﷺ, and how we are concentrating on removing the nafs, stepping on the ego, to remove the veils that is in front of us. We just finished the zikr. Zikr, it is what? It is a garden of paradise. Don't concentrate on wanting to see the garden of paradise. So many, they come together, they make zikr, and later they say, what did you see? I saw this light. Oh, what did you see? Oh, I saw this saint. Oh, what did you see? I saw this prophet. Everyone is concentrating on that. Some things may happen to you. Our way is not to concentrate on that. Our way is concentrating. Why, when you're in front of us making zikr, you're not listening to the leader who is making a zikr? And what is it that in the day, in the week, because whatever that is happening in the week, it is going to show, the fruits of it is going to show in the zikr time. Whatever that you are concentrating on, the zikr, the sohbet, and the Jummah time will show the results of what we have been busy with. The zikr is a garden of paradise, but we are blind. If you say you see something, I'm saying you're tricking yourself too. Because if you really are, your life has to be filled with light. You must not only be holding on tightly to the sunnat, but you must be able to carry the burdens of other people. We are nothing. We are trying to be nothing. We are helpless and dirty servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, servants of the Prophet, servants of our Shaykh. We are trying to be nothing. And we are concentrating on the things, on the veils that is separating us from Allah. For that, the sohbet is important. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us in association with our Shaykh. Keep us in the association of our Jamaat. Make us to become more awake, to let go of this stubbornness that is coming in hundreds and thousands of different ways. Get rid of this arrogance that is coming in hundreds and thousands of different ways. To be with the Salihin, to learn from them, not to learn from kafirin, not to learn from the unbelievers and the hypocrites, but to learn from the Salihin and the awliya Allah. For the sake of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, Al-Fatiha. Ameen. In the way of spirituality too, you are not going to be tricked. In the way of spirituality, of course, so many they are tricked in the way of spirituality. So many in the way of spirituality, they are thinking that they are something. So many in the way of spirituality, they think, and being in Jamaat and listening to Sohbet should build up in us, you and me, how to get rid of the tricks and the traps of our ego. How to understand the ego and shaitan. Bismillahir, Rahmaanir, Raheem. Mr. Madadi Sa'ib al-Saif, Sultan al-Tariqat al-Sohbet fil-Harimin Jamiyat. This tariqat, Bismillahir, Rahmaanir, Rahim. This tariqat is based on association. Sohbet. If you that they achieve to high stations. What Shaykh Maulana is saying, the Shaykh Effendi is telling us over and over again. We are trying to be what? Something. No. We're trying to be nothing. As long as we see that we are something, our ego is going to trick us. So tariqat, you are listening to Sohbet, and if you put it in your life, what the Sohbet is saying, you'll find that time very easy for you. Dunya and Akhirat. You're not going to be sucked into the tricks and the traps of the dunya. And